Alright, we are now starting on target 6B, proving geometric theorems. This target really is like the big chunk, the most important target of this unit. Alright, it's really what it's about. So, we're going to look at 6B.1, which is identifying slope of a line from a graph or an equation to determine if lines are parallel or perpendicular. So the proofs we're doing today are proof if these lines are parallel or if they're perpendicular. Okay. So the first thing we're going to look at is some vocabulary. First, we have slope. Again, slope learned last year, so this first part should be a review. The definition of slope is the steepness of a line. And how we most often write it is slope equals rise over run, or y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. We also say that as like the change in y over the change in x. Okay. And we will often be given the graph, so you can just use this rise over run, kind of like what we did with our last video where we were just counting. Right, so if you have a graph, the easiest way really is just to count the lines. Then horizontal lines have a slope of 0. So the line goes straight across. Right, it doesn't rise, so it's 0 divided by anything. So it has a slope of 0. And vertical lines have an undefined slope. Okay, so we'll just say it's undefined, right? Because it has rise, but it doesn't have run. It doesn't go over at all, so that's 0. And so when you divide by 0, you can't do that, so we call it undefined. All right, parallel lines. Parallel lines are two lines that have the same slope. Okay, so if two lines have the exact same slope, we say they are parallel, and they will never intersect. Right? Perpendicular lines are lines that cross at a right angle. So for this one, we want to know about their slope. So perpendicular lines are two lines that have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. That's not how you spell it. That should be a C. So what does that mean? Opposite, you change signs. So if the one slope is positive, the other slope should be negative. Get it right? Negative. And if the one slope was negative, then it goes to positive. And then reciprocal means to flip the fraction. So some examples of that are, if I have the number 5, that's the same as saying 5 over 1. So when I flip the fraction, I get 1/5. If I have something like 1/3, and I flip the fraction, that's 3 over 1, which is just 3. I could also have something like 2/7, and I flip the fraction and get 7/2. Okay, it doesn't reduce or do anything. So that's what that reciprocal means. You're flipping your fraction. Alright, our last vocab is slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. You've probably seen this before. Alright, again, where m is your slope. B is your y-intercept, but when we're trying to decide if things are parallel or perpendicular, that's not super important. We're most worried about our slope. Okay. All right, looking at example 1, determine if the following lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Okay, so we have to find the slope. So we want it to be in the slope-intercept form. It has to look like y equals mx plus b. If we look at this first one, it's already there. I have y equals something x something. So I can pull out my slope right away. Is whatever's in front of x. So my slope equals 3/5. And m is used for slope. So slope equals 3/5. Looking at my second one, it's not in that slope-intercept form because there's something in front of y. If I look at my slope-intercept form, there's nothing in front of y. So that means I have to get rid of this 5. So I'm going to divide by 5. That means I have to divide everything else by 5 as well. So we have y equals, it's x minus 2. Alright, so that means this slope is also equal to 3/5. Therefore, these lines are parallel. They have the exact same slope. Alright, let's look at our next one. We have y minus 2 equals 7x. This one is not in slope-intercept form. Again, slope-intercept form, y has to be by itself. Right now, y has a minus 2 with it. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So then whatever is in front of x is our slope. Same thing with part B. X plus 7y equals 8. Again, y is not by itself. I have to get rid of this x first, whatever being added to it. I'm going to write the x first when I bring everything down, just because that's the order it goes in my form up here, right? X, then the next thing. Now, y is still not by itself. So now we have y equals, well, negative x divided by 7 is really the same thing as, there's technically a 1. So there's negative 1/7 x plus 8/7. Okay. So you might get some weird fractions with these, and that's okay. Again, this number really doesn't matter at all. Really just our slope matters. And then this is where you have to start recognizing those opposite reciprocals. So 7 to negative 1/7, the sign did change, so they are opposite. And then 7 does flip to 1/7. So they are also reciprocals. So these are perpendicular. Okay. All right, go ahead, turn the page. So that was if we have an equation. Here, if we have two graphs of a line, then we want to decide if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So we're going to find the slope. Again, slope is rise over run. So I'm going to look at letter A first. I'm going to go from this point to that point, rise over run. So from here to here, we go up 14. And from here to here, we went right 12. Up is positive and right is positive. So I don't have to worry about that. So my slope, again, equals rise over run, which equals 14 over 12, which reduces to 7 over 6. Then, looking at my second one, again, we're going to do rise over run. Rise is just vertical, so whether it's up or down, it doesn't have to be up. So if I'm going from here to here, I always like to go from left to right, but just be careful with positives and negatives. So now I'm going down and then right. So we go down 7 and then over 6. So you have to have that negative in there. Okay. So now I'm going to decide if these are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. They're not perpendicular. These are not exactly the same. One's positive, one's negative. And then for perpendicular, they have to be opposite reciprocals. They are opposite. One's positive, one's negative. But they are not reciprocals, right? It did not flip. So we would say these are neither. We'll skip B. You want to do it, it's parallel. But I think that one's a little more obvious, and I want to do C. So again, slope equals rise over run. So I'm going to go from here to here, do line A first. Sorry. Rise over run. We're going up 4 over 5. And that doesn't reduce at all. And then we need to do line B. Again, our slope. So this one's going down and then over. And if you count, it's going down 10 over 8. So that's negative 10 over 8, which reduces to negative 5 over 4. So we should be able to tell pretty much right away these are not parallel. They're not the same. We have to check if they're perpendicular. Well, 4/5 to negative 5/4, those are opposite. 4/5, if I flip that fraction, right, it does become 5/4. So these are perpendicular. Those are opposite reciprocals. Sorry. All right, we're going to look at one more example. I'm skipping a few. We're going to look at example 3B, same type of thing, but now we are doing using the just points. We don't have a graph and we don't have an equation. So it gives us the points of line 1 and the points of line 2. So we're going to start by finding the slope of line 1. And again, slope equals right, the second y minus the first y, the second x minus the first x. So my second y is 1 minus 3 over 3 minus 0, which is negative 2/3. Right. And again, that comes from it's y minus y, and then right, x minus x there. And then we can do the same thing for line 2. So, first point, second point. So I'm going to do y minus y, negative 5 minus 4. Again, that comes from this one minus this one. Over, right, x minus x, negative 7 minus negative 1. Make sure, this is one part that tricks people up, right, negative 7 minus negative 1. You should have both of those minus signs. And again, that comes from here and here. So negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9. Negative 7 minus negative 1. Anytime you have two negatives, right, a negative times a negative is positive. So negative 7 plus 1 is negative 6. Which equals 3/2. So looking at these two again, it switched signs and the fraction flipped. Those are perpendicular. Okay. Alright, that is it for this video. I'll see you guys tomorrow.